Thank you all for being here. This is the third annual Hero Roundtable. We are excited to get it started in Brighton, Michigan. Just want to go over a couple of things about what you're going to see over the next 2 days, what this is all about. We're going to have a series of short 12-minute talks from speakers from all over the world, all talking about their expertise and how it relates to the idea of heroism. And this whole thing sort of started from an idea of heroism being available to everybody. That it's not something just for people with underwear on the outside of their clothes or capes. It's for you, the people sitting in the room right now, that heroism is available to you. So, with that in mind, in the audience today, speakers from literally all over the world. We have people from England here, we have someone from Hungary, we even have people from Guernsey where they make the cows that make the milk that you drink. And so I would encourage you to interact with them. So if you see a speaker up here today who really you connect with, they want to talk to you. Every one of them wants to talk for longer than 12 minutes, believe me. I'm only giving them 12 minutes though. They want to talk to you out there, they want to talk to you at lunch today, they want to share what they're passionate about, and that's why they're here. That's why they traveled thousands of miles to be here. So make sure you do that. You probably don't get any phone service in here, but just in case you do, turn your phones to silent. Don't turn your phones off because we want you tweeting. You see the tweets are up with the hashtag HeroRT. How many of you have got Twitter accounts? Excellent. So let's see if we can double that today. So if you are not on Twitter, there's lots of people here who can help get you set up. We're using that hashtag on Instagram and Facebook as well. To give you a little bit about why I'm standing here, I've been working on heroism for 9 years now, teaching it, learning about it, reading about it, and 3 years ago decided that we needed to get all of these people that are talking about the subject into the same room. And it's really cool to see some of the faces that are here today that have been here for all 3 of those years. What I'd like to get across today, I think, I'm going to start, I guess, with a story. How many of you saw the story, would have been 3 weeks ago, on the train in Europe with the 3 American guys and a British guy who took down a gunman on the train? So that brought heroism to the focus of news media. People were talking about it, reporting on it. And the reactions of people were quite interesting on the train, right? So there were people who just hid and tried to survive, which is sort of feels like the right thing to do, right? Someone comes onto a train with a gun, you think, I don't want to get shot. But there were some people in there who had different reactions. And one of them, this British guy, hid behind the chair saying, I don't want to die today. But then he thought about it and thought, actually, I've thought about this situation dozens of times. I'm on this train all the time, and I've often thought about what I would do if a terrorist came on board. And he's like, I'm not sitting behind this chair. I've thought about this. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go after this guy. And then there were 3 American friends. And one of them said, let's go. And they rushed and they took this guy down and saved who knows how many lives. That train was going 100 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour. Nobody was getting off that train. So I want to talk a little bit about how you can be the kind of person that when they see something wrong, doesn't hide behind the chair or walk away or close their eyes, that they do something. Now, I absolutely hope that none of you find yourself on a high-speed train with a guy with an AK-47. But situations occur every day where you see something that you know is wrong, and there's a test. Are you going to do something about it? So let me see a show of hands. How many people in the room have seen something that they knew was wrong, but didn't do anything about it? It happens all the time. So why is that? There are a ton of reasons why we don't do the right thing. But I want to share a couple today, a couple of ideas on how you can overcome that barrier, how you can be the kind of person that is going to step up, whether it's seeing someone being beaten up, seeing someone being teased, called names, and increasingly more serious. So the first is that, let me start with a story. So when I was in high school in Australia, we would go to camp every 2 years. So in 7th grade seventh grade is start of high school in Australia. We'd go to camp 7th grade, we all went to camp 9th grade, and we all went to camp in 11th grade. And in the 11th grade camp, we were out in the woods, and the entire camp, or the entire 11th grade, went on a hike. And we went into this sort of steep valley. And we're hiking along, the plan was to hike along for the whole day. And I, not uncharacteristically, was completely obsessed with a girl. And all I did for that morning was think about, man, what would happen if Lyndall fell off that cliff and she was stuck and she needed to be rescued? I would jump up there and get her. I imagined if she got bitten by a snake. This is all horrible things to be wishing on somebody that you're obsessed with, right? But I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to rescue her and then, obviously my life would change. Linda would be in love with me and high school would be great. So this whole walk we're thinking that and just, it's in my head. And we stopped for lunch. Everyone sort of we had a sack lunch. And then everyone started getting up to continue the walk. And my head's starting to think, okay, what could happen to Lyndall on this part of the walk? And then there was a giant snapping sound. And our American PE teacher had stood up and snapped her, I think, Achilles tendon. She could not move. And bam, people jumped into action. Some people didn't do anything. Some people were like, we've got to do something. And I was one of those people because I'd spent the whole day thinking, what would I do? And now I wasn't obsessed with my PE teacher, but I jumped into action and we made a stretcher. It was ridiculous, like all these sort of Boy Scouty things we just started doing. We made a stretcher. Our other PE teacher took off, made a beeline back to where the camp was. None of us knew where we were. We were lost in the woods, but he knew exactly the right direction to go. And we carried her up this steep cliff. And that is what I think is called the heroic imagination. And Zeno Franco, who's sitting up in the back corner up there, came up with that idea about 10 years ago. And the idea is that if we imagine ourselves doing heroic things, we're more likely to then do heroic things. And that's what that British guy on the train had happen. He imagined that situation over and over again. And I've done that too. I used to work at a summer camp, and a ton of times I imagined, what if someone came to take over the camp? And almost always it had to do with me rescuing a girl. Almost always. But when you imagine those situations, you're prepared for them because in your head, you've already thought, oh, this is what I do. Some of you may have thought when you walked into this hall, what would happen if someone came in? And you already know what you're doing. You've seen the exits. It's kind of a bit Jason Bourne-ish. But I haven't got all the skills, it's just the looks of Jason Bourne. So that's one thing that you can do, is start imagining it. I thought kind of everyone did this as I was growing up, but I found that it's not normal. That sounded wrong. It's not unusual. The other thing you can do is to have heroes. Having heroes inspires us to be heroic. There are tons of people that we can hold up as heroes, and we hear about some of them a lot. We hear about Martin Luther King every year, Rosa Parks every year. So one of the things I've done recently with my friend Matthew, who was backstage, is write a book for middle school and high school people, showcasing some heroes that are maybe a little unusual or unheard of. So I'm going to have my beautiful assistant bring the book out, and I'll show you quickly. That's you, Vienna. Thank you very much. So part of the reason I wrote this book was for this kid, so that she could have some of these heroes. The art is done by Matthew Osman, who's sitting back here. The idea behind, some of you know, the idea behind this book is that there's 17 heroes in here. If you read through it, the chances are pretty good that you're going to find someone that you resonate with. And I think we sell ourselves short when we only have Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks as our options, because not all of us connect with those people. And if you don't connect with one of them, they're kind of not very valuable to you. So we need to find heroes. You need to look for them. You need to read them, go into the library and read historical biographies, read the news, find people that are doing heroic things. Thanks, Bum. You can take that away. Thank you. And the last piece is to be aware of what's going on around you. How many of you ever feel like you're just sitting in your own little world in your day-to-day life, at school, at work? It happens to us a lot, and I think more and more as headphones are acceptable everywhere. We've got these little computers in our pockets that we can read through. And if you are doing that and you're in your own little world, you don't see the world around you. You don't see opportunities to help. There would have been some people on that train with their headphones on, maybe reading Facebook, maybe reading their Kindle, who wouldn't have even noticed that there was a guy with an AK-47 entering the carriage. And if they didn't notice, they are not in a position to help. If your school experience is to walk in the front doors, walk to your locker, grab your stuff, your head's down the whole time, go to your classroom, you're not going to notice when somebody needs your help. And the same goes for work. The same goes for your commute. The same goes for your lunch break. So I want you to think maybe today about practicing being aware of what's going on around you. Listen to what is happening around you. Look at what's happening around you. Because there might be one day where someone needs your help and you notice, and then you can provide it. So that's where I'm going to leave my talk today.